Okay, so let's go to the fun stuff. Here's the recommendations. I've sorted them into 5 buckets, okay, and this is how we're going to go through them. I have recommendations for charities, bingo halls, for the state, for suppliers, and for marketing. Some of them cross over a little bit, so if you see the same thing twice, there's a little bit of crossover going on there. Okay, first, detailed recommendations for charities. Number 1 is increase awareness of bingo. Increase the player pool. Communicate where to play. A lot of people seem interested but don't know where to play. Increase the general awareness of the game, how it's played, the charitable connections, and communicating that bingo halls are non-smoking. There's some lingering association of that from the past. Next, greater availability. Expanded distribution into more venues and bars, restaurants, and perhaps some level of online or remote participation. Attract, target younger players with faster, more interesting, more interactive games. There's a lot of things going on. I've looked at some European activities. I've seen some domestic programs that really target a younger audience that have been very successful and very popular. Attract more new and younger players here, faster moving games, speed games, custom games, give away relevant door prizes for them, more opportunities to win, more electronic devices for this particular group is certainly appropriate, and then the consideration of some remote activity. Okay, more for charities. Another top barrier to success was this volunteer and burnout issue, right? So the top reason for terminating bingo was the lack of volunteer support. And we need to reward, I think, volunteers differently. So there should be some level of compensation for volunteers or paid professional staff to increase the support of and support base and service levels in the bingo operations. You know, volunteer support is critical. Charities have other fundraising activities that they can use that might be easier. If my mom is a volunteer at bingo and she can't get any help on her fees for her charity or something because she's volunteering and the mom next door isn't, you know, that's an issue for her. So I think, I'm not saying pay volunteers, I'm saying maybe allow the charity to give them some sort of offset for their fee, for their soccer fee or whatever it is that we're talking about. Consideration of training. Charities, some, need help running the business, okay? I think they would benefit from tools, training, and resources. So I think there's an opportunity to train, communicate best practices to help organizations improve their operational effectiveness, okay? Especially in the areas of marketing, on-site customer service, those types of areas, okay? So we have a lot of data, so how do we increase our charity base? I think an outreach campaign to charities would be quite effective. So let's go out, let's take the information that we have, and let's go to charities that are out there right now and develop a communications program, talk to them and pitch them on the idea of using bingo as a fundraising option, talk to them about the laws and the compliance issues, training opportunities and tools. So kind of take the mystique, the problems that they might have, you know, perceptually with bingo and overcome those. Okay, bingo halls. Oops, one other thing. Use bingo as a traffic builder. Focus more on pull tabs. This was a big thing that came up in a lot of the conversations. Another thing that came up was what I would call like a co-op facility arrangement. There were some suggestions around, you know, a pooling of resources in facilities. Okay, so for the next slide on bingo, bingo halls. Bingo, you know, the halls are critically important to the success of bingo, but you know, the high rent and in some instances the quality of the facility have been noted as barriers. So one of the things that I think we should look at is to align the bingo hall objectives with tenant charity objectives. I made up these words: shared risk business model. I think other people have other words for them, prorated expense type of thing. So rather than have to pay, you know, $500 out of pocket and nobody shows up, I lose, you know how that works, okay? So this has been some area of friction with some of the charities. Shared advertising is also another opportunity. Next, encourage halls and renting charities to work together to build more camaraderie in the hall and for the support of the charity in general. Okay, so this is an alignment and incentives and support and market the charitable aspects of bingo to attract more players and to support the charity. So when I said before, you know, communicate better, I think there's an opportunity to get a group of bingo halls and charities together to talk through some of these issues and see if there's something that can be agreed upon there. For bingo halls, paid staff at the bingo halls may provide more effective sales and service compared to infrequent, poorly trained volunteers from the charity. Okay? Game callers, game managers, people that are responsible for the financial oversight, use bingo as a traffic builder, focus more on the pull tabs, print and electronic. So for the bingo halls, you know, these are some of the things that, that I would suggest. Now I've got like, I'm going to tease the Colorado folks, I've got like 12 pages of recommendations for the, just kidding. I do have a number of recommendations for the state of Colorado. First, at the very first meeting we talked about, you know, let's be sure that we have specific and measurable goals for bingo moving forward. So, you know, there's that Yogi Berra statement, quote, you know, it's hard to get there if you don't know where there is. So that's you know, where do we want to go with bingo in the future? And let's focus in and develop a plan around those areas. Next is to address the tone of oversight. You know, remuneration is viewed negatively. It suggests everyone is dishonest. And, you know, I've said that, and there's a quote that I will use that came from one of you in this room. It says, some of this tone feels like everybody's a crook. And everybody's trying to take advantage of the system. So, ease that tone of oversight, okay? Ease rules and regulations, requirements on payments to the state. Okay, reporting, you know, rules that are appropriate for the size of the charity. The one size fits all might not work. So when I was speaking with smaller charities and learned in the research, there's a lot of paperwork for them to do if they're just doing one bingo program a year. So maybe there's another way to deal with that issue. Lots of forms to fill out, and all of that is independent of the size of the charity or the event. Advocacy efforts. And I don't know if this goes under the state of Colorado or just everything in general, but I've found that, you know, bingo's really not on a level playing field, you know, in the advocacy area. So I think that there's something that can be done, and of course everything costs money, but, you know, the question is, you know, who is the primary and predominant voice for the bingo community? You know, in bingo community, I'm talking about halls, I'm talking about charities, and I'm talking about service providers. So how is this group represented, you know, at the advocacy level? Okay, so next, to deal with the rules and overall complexity, rules and regulations, you know, the staffing and volunteer issue, you know, volunteers can't be paid or rewarded. Very complex issue, and a lot of the volunteers just weren't happy to be there at all. So how do we deal with that? So let's simplify the rules and regulations in this area that deal with staffing and volunteers. You know, allows compensation for volunteers and or paid professional staff. Run professionally with paid staff, such as callers, MCs, game managers. There was a little confusion about this 501c3 nonprofit status for charities and the time requirement. Consider expansion of games more to on-premise, and I know that that's something that can be done, but you know, let's consider about moving in that area. Changes to the game, there was a very long list of changes to the game that came out of the study. And I kind of pared this down after some conversations. And you can see what these are. You know, the big one, you know, the 24 number game, that's one of the big hot spots that comes up. You know, maybe that's something that we should think about. Depends on who you are. You know, change legislation on the 35 game rule, you know, faces, allowed tied progressive parimutuel type games, eliminate the 4 session a week limitation. So these were some of the changes to the game that were suggested. Next, and again, we're under State of Colorado recommendations, review the fee basis. You know, now the fee is based on gross, so not only if I lose money, I lose more money because I have to pay off the gross. So my suggestion is let's look at this fee basis and pay off of the net. Okay? New contemporary games, use of electronics, linked games, online bingo, virtual game, and I know these are all, you know, difficult issues. Smartphone apps, these are all things that I think can be considered. Expansion of games to on-premise, allow staff to sell. This electronic pull tab dispenser, I think, is being used in Michigan. There's an electronic pull tab that can be taken into an on-premise account, and it's a turnkey thing. You can have one volunteer there. Electronic pull tabs and so forth. Teach charities to more run like a business. Customer service, paid staff, business accounting practices, and marketing. These are all things I'm suggesting that the state of Colorado should consider. Volunteer training program, make things more user-friendly. So next is service providers, and I've got just a couple of slides left. How am I doing on time? Doing good? Okay. I've got like 4 slides left. In the area of service providers, I learned in my conversations that a lot of states have a different approach to how they work with service providers. My suggestion is, you know, give them a big seat at the table, treat them as partners, look at them, look at new games with them and test some new ideas that are appropriate here. Review supplier recommendations and products, perhaps adjust for legalities in the state, work on more electronic speed games, and develop the electronic pull tabs. Now the last area is marketing. We need to develop a general bingo marketing campaign, and it would start with a general bingo positioning, selling the bingo experience, making that connection with charitable fundraising, where and how to play, and promote the social aspects and entertainment value of bingo. A lot of people say, you know, bingo's fun, and it's not all that expensive. It's cheaper to play bingo than to do some other things. And then we need to get the word out. So, you know, consider a dual marketing strategy to the public and to the operators. So, you know, a general public campaign to promote the awareness, understanding of the game, to build interest, especially among younger players. There has to be something on the local level to deliver against the needs and interests of those younger players. So we have to have a good product for them before we could embark on that effort. And then in the operator area, you know, how do we market our activities more effectively? So there would be something like a marketing toolkit in a box with some general templates that could be used and executed by the charities that would, you know, have a cohesive overall branding connectivity to the whole notion of charitable bingo in the state of Colorado. This is important too. Promote the success stories of bingo. I noticed just this last week that Colorado Lottery has a great big brand new advertising campaign running right now that says, look at what all this money pays for. And then they list out all of the things. So this would be, I think, very effective to promote the notion of bingo raises funds for charities. A lot of states do this already. You know, we built this facility or we did that activity that was funded by proceeds from our charitable operations. Okay? I also think that, you know, for the state, I think there are opportunities to look at some custom state games, imprint type programs that might be really highly relevant for Colorado. And then lastly, in the marketing area. I think a resource website, social media activity and programs would be quite effective. So at the very first meeting, I asked the question, you know, where are we going to go? What do we think we need to do? And now, after we've done all of this work, we have a great deal of information to build some solid, insight-based plans for bingo. You know, bingo is said to be the biggest game in the world. It's popular due to its ease of play, social dynamic, chance to win, and it can be contemporized. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal just last week about success, it was in the Chicago market, success contemporizing bingo to a new, younger audience, and they've had great success doing so. Same thing in Europe, so it can be done. So I've just blown through a whole lot of information and data, so I guess at this point we'd like to open up for discussion.